Now, this is astonishing. This is breaking news. The revolution will be televised. The October surprise. The Harris campaign is dead in the water. Okay, and I'm speaking metaphorically. The Harris campaign is dead in the water. There was a epic Fox News interview with Bret Baier last night, and Kamala Harris became unhinged. She stopped listening and to the Bluetooth ear microphones. She became unhinged, unruly, and her team pretty much ended the live interview on Fox News. I saw some video from behind the scenes where her staff was giving a hard cut and was willing to walk on the set and interrupt the live broadcast on Fox News because Kamala Harris lost it. She became unhinged. They know her. They have seen her lose her cool. And this is astonishing. I thought, something would happen closer to the election, but we're 19 days away and her campaign is pretty much through. Where is Tim Walz? Barack Obama came out and went viral, and black men showed how disenchanted he is with the black community and exposed him. The Diddy tapes and the Diddy files are coming out, and everyone is pretty much associating everyone that promotes her or supports her or endorses her, with the Diddy tapes. That's i.e. Barack Obama, i.e. Magic Johnson, et cetera, et cetera. But the Harris campaign is in shambles. And all things come to an end. And this is a situation where we really got to understand what's going on in this world. And what's going on in this world is that righteousness has to prevail. And when I say righteousness has to prevail, it's literally God versus the devil. And it's literally God's ambassadors versus the devil's advocates. And the days are over. And even Willie Lynch said, we could do this for hundreds, if not thousands of years. But it's going to stop at hundreds. The vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, said the same thing. I'll have those niggers voting Democratic for the next 200 years. But he had us voting Democratic for the last 60 years because it hurts my feelings. And I got some things to share with you today to expose the party for what it is. Because the Democratic Party is exposing itself, and it's not the flesh, it's not the human beings, but the Democratic Party is exposing itself for what it truly is. And if you really understand and you are a spiritual person with a spiritual consciousness and morals, the Democratic Party is pretty much exposing itself as the Antichrist Party. Because I got some information that I got to share with you today. Because the devil is in the details, and we've been going through the propositions and the ballots and things of that nature from a community perspective, because, we can't continue to support a system if we don't know what's really going on. And then they would say, if you want a Negro to not know something, put it in writing. And we've been studying, and we are working on a scorecard that we will have prepared next week for our voters and our constituents. And it's not looking good. First, I had to break the news that Proposition 6 removes slavery from the state constitution in California and in alliance with the national effort to amend the 13th Amendment, meaning there's a slavery clause in the Constitution, and that's verified by the Vagrancy Act of 1866 that pretty much put ball and chains on newly freed slaves that pretty much were vagrant, homeless, unemployed, and was out looking for displaced loved ones. And this is why, you have the ball and chain and the cartoons and things of that nature. So that was one. So I'm going to talk about Proposition 3 today, which is egregious, which is the worst thing that I ever seen, ever. And then for a party such as the Democratic Party to associate themselves with this particular proposition, it is astonishing. I've been sharing this proposition. I learned of it Tuesday in the community meeting in South Los Angeles, and we read the details, and the details were astonishing. It was astonishing. And then I've been sharing it with individuals, and these are lifelong Democrats, and these individuals are heartbroken. It's a situation where men of God, righteous individuals are leaving the party by the droves because of how egregious it is when it comes to having no morals and being deemed antichrist. So Proposition 3 is a constitutional right to marriage legislation, constitutional amendment. So in the state of California, they're trying to amend the Constitution and for marriage rights. Okay, and back in the 2000s, 2008, 2009, when Kamala Harris was the Attorney General, she literally was the first person to marry same sex. So I'm saying this to set it up because same sex marriage is in the state constitution in California, and it is legal. Okay, you can marry who you want to marry when it comes to male and female. Okay, so Proposition 3, constitutional right to marriage legislation, constitutional amendment. So why are we dealing with this again all of a sudden in the state of California? And I was on a call and I talked to some other individuals in the state of North Carolina. It's in other states as well. And this is the proposition. I'm gonna give it to you. So if you want to really hear the truth, stay with me. But if you don't want your day ruined, if you don't want to expose the party that you may have already voted for, then go ahead and, like TD Jakes would say, log off. Because right now, this is the worst thing that I've ever seen in legislation in the history of voting. Because Proposition 3, and I got to give it to you, I'm not making this up. I'm reading this. I'm going to read it verbatim from my general election book. Okay. And this is why we got to put a scorecard together, because I know someone's going to vote for this. So Proposition 3, you ready? Removes all rules for marriage. Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage. I'm going to say this again. Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage. So what does that mean? I'm going to go ahead and continue to read. This is what it means. Opening the door to child marriages. Opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. Think about that. Think about that. And you wonder why some of us have abandoned the Democratic Party and chose nonpartisan independent and will be voting for their moral servitude or moral consciousness, because Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door for child marriages, incest, and polygamy. And this is a democratic proposition. Oh, no, that's right, Mildred Turner. A democratic proposition being pushed in California by Democrats. Think about that. And this is why we got to understand guilty by association is a thing. And this is why I understand, human beings that say that they're not voting, because they are lifelong Democrats. They see what's going on with the Trump and all of that. So they can't make a decision. So they're going to stand still. Why we got to go into the ballot box and we got to vote. We got to vote no on Proposition 3, because Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child incest and polygamy. So this is what we're dealing with. And then we Proposition 6 on the ballot as well. And Proposition 6, we are going to go into the ballot box and vote yes, because Proposition 6 in slavery in California. And a lot of people want to sit back, oh, we're not slaves, but these things go way back into 1865. And this is why you have a presidential candidate of Kamala Harris saying that we're going to turn the page. We're moving forward, because when you go back and look at the details and you go back and look to what the framers did, it's astonishing in the sense of what they did hundreds of years ago that's still on the books today that have us in disarray today. And then you will have a black female running for president, looking for votes from Christians, for votes for, Muslims, looking for votes for, Orthodox Jews, the whole nine, when they have bills on the ballot and they don't even talk about it because Proposition 3, could you imagine if we were to ask Kamala Harris about Proposition 3, she would basically, her blanket answer would be, I will follow the law. Okay, so if we vote yes on Proposition 3, then that means we're going to remove all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. This is crazy. And then the interview that she did last night is proof that she's not prudential, is proof that she's unhinged, is proof that she can't even have a cognitive conversation because some hard questions was asked for the first time that I've seen it. And this is the first time that I've seen her get out of control. And 23 minutes in, a live 30-minute interview, her team pretty much yelled cut. And they were threatening to really walk on the stage and down. Okay, I got a video that I saw on someone's platform where they were showing her whole staff was standing up, ended, cut, go to commercial, ended. And she's sitting there talking back. And I'm sitting back like, wow, the visual that they put on the ticket to be the president of the United States because they want things like Proposition 3. She's already same sex, which is okay. But they want Proposition 3 to pass, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. Now, Mildred Turner, good morning to you. I appreciate you. Put a question in the comment. And if you're on, go ahead and ask a question. This is literally a off the record town hall. We're really going to get to the bottom of this because God's people show not periodic knowledge. I really don't know who to vote for. I know who I am not voting for. So confused. And Mildred Turner, God is not the author of confusion. He did not create the spirit of fear. You have to vote. Okay, you have to go in there and vote. And I got 2 propositions today, and I will be continuing with other propositions. But today, I got the 2. You got to vote yes on Proposition 6, which ends slavery in California, and go back and watch the previous live streams that I posted. And you got to go in and vote no on Proposition 3. Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. And then, Mildred, you say you don't know who to vote for, but you know who you're not voting for. Okay. None of us, we're not voting for Trump. Okay. And we're not voting for Harris. So, Mildred, this is what it is. When you go in there and look at your ballot, on your ballot, there are 6 presidential candidates. My ballot, Donald Trump is at the top. Then you have the Peace and Freedom Party, the Democrats, the Libertarian Party, the American Independent Party, and then the Green Party. And under the Green Party, there's a box, and that box says write in. Okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, we're writing in a name above every name. We're writing in the king because we are not going to sit back and support presidential candidates and legislation that's going to actually destroy the world. Because if we basically go in there and, flip and vote for Trump and something catastrophic happens in this beautiful nation that we are, because the Constitution says we the people, and something catastrophic happens and voted for Trump, then we got blood on our hands. We're guilty by association. And then if you flip the script, we go in there and support Harris and World War III happens and all that, the blood on our hands. But just look at the word of God. Just like in the days of Egypt. Okay, writing in Jesus Christ is no different than, putting the lamb's blood over the door, because when God said, when I smite Egypt, not if, but when I smite Egypt, okay, we will be protected. So when he smites the Democratic Party, because if you did not know and understand, God said in the book of Genesis and in the book of Acts of the Apostles, I will punish the oppressors and my people should come out with great wealth. So the reason why the oppressors continue to move on and have opportunities to put propositions like Proposition 3 in the books, which removes all rules for marriage or for child marriage and incest and polygamy, is because we continue to support these individuals. So as long as we support them, they get a chance to live. And this is why they fight to be associated with us, because God loves us. So they want saved by associating themselves with us. This is why we got to disassociate ourselves with them. And this is why we got to move forward. This is why we got to move forward. And okay, right. Okay. Thank you. Smart. I will do that. And this is purpose because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. I studied the civil rights, Mildred Turner, and Dr. King, pretty much laid out that he delivered his people into a burning house when it came to integration. Because just like now, these groups that were part of the civil rights movement pretty much used us as guinea pigs to get to a positions to get women's rights, to get the LGBTQ elemental P rights, to get all the rights. And now, therefore, the rights of the marriage of anything, even animals, because there's Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, all rules. So if somebody come up with a Doberman pincher, somebody comes up there with a German Shepherd, this is what it is. And sometimes, you got to have these hard conversations. And I know that this is not going to be, a live stream that's effective to most. That's not going to get, views or, the high numbers that a lot of my recent, live vertical feeds have gotten, because a lot of people don't really want to know the truth. But we got to deal with the truth, because when somebody loves you, I love you. When somebody loves you, they tell you the truth. So I got to tell you the truth about the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is pushing Proposition 3, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. I'm going to continue. It changes California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal. Think about that. Think about that. Because a lot of people really don't understand it's not flesh and blood. It's powers, principalities, the evildoers in high places. So it's not a strike against Kamala Harris. It's a strike against the Antichrist party, in which I got to say that. Because if you are pretty much promoting a proposition and allowed it to be argued on the state legislators, and then put on the ballot, Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. This is associated with a particular party. And this is why black men, more importantly, separating themselves from the Democratic Party, because from a metaphor perspective, it is so obvious that we as black men, we've made mistakes before. And just like when you look at this, Adam made a mistake. And God asked Adam about that mistake. And Adam said, the woman you gave me, she offered it to me. I partook in it. I ate it. I did what I did. OK, and then God told him, move to the side. Then he went directly to Eve. So this time around, we cannot blame nobody. We can't blame Kamala Harris as men. We can't blame Barack Obama. We can't even blame the Democratic Party as men, because this is our opportunity to end the saga, to end the horror movie, because they are anticipating us to continue to support a system that will continue to genocide our people. So now that we are having a spiritual awakening, we've been woke. OK, but we sat back on the sidelines thinking and anticipating and believing that our, booty and our scholars, had our best interests at hand. But all they're trying to do is pretty much get wealth for themselves and them families, and to do whatever they want to do. Because if you look at all our leaders, they've been compromised, and they are all associated with Diddy. And that's, Barack Obama. That's Oprah Winfrey. That's Steve Harvey. That's Magic Johnson. All of these individuals have been compromised. And now that we got to understand that it's righteousness versus unrighteousness, this is why we got to have this hard conversation today and understand that the Antichrist party must be decimated. The Antichrist party must be no more. And if it continues, it will not continue with the support of God's people. It will continue with the support of these individuals, literally put in a Proposition 3 to remove all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy in the state of California. And I'm reading this directly out of my book. So this is what they're doing. Now, somebody asked me a question, but who would do something like that? OK, now the supporters of this bill, the supporters of this legislation, which is supported by the Democratic Party, which is donor to the Democratic Party, especially in these Western states, the supporters, are you ready for this? the Sierra Pacific Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church. Wow. Evangelical Lutheran Church, and synod is synonymous with the diocese. And let me see here. What are the Jewish people? I'm not going to throw the Jews up under the bus, but the Orthodox Jews, because you have Christian Jews. And this is association, because today, we got to shame the devil. We're going to learn today. We're not playing. And you see here, the Sierra Pacific Synod Church supports this. And the Sierra Pacific Synod Church is one of 65 synods of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. It covers Central and Northern California and Northern Nevada, and supports the ELCA congregations through that region. It was headed by Bishop Megan Rohr, who resigned on June 6th of 2022. So think about this. It's 100 headquarters in Oakland. And where's Kamala Harris from? She claims to be, raised by her other single family, middle class or whatever. So this is astonishing. And this is a group that is associated with the Democratic Party. So this is why we individuals that's flipping and going both sides. It's weird because, okay, you take care of Mildred Turner. It's weird how these things take place, and it's weird how, the revolution, they're not telling us these things. So how can a party be associated with any type of group that will be willing to put a constitutional right to marriage legislation and a constitution on the ballot, which is Prop 3, which removes marriage, which removes all rules for marriage? And all means all. So if somebody wants to marry a dog, if somebody wants to marry their cat, but I'm going to continue, removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, polygamy. It changes California's constitution. Same-sex marriage is already legal. And it says this in this book, making moms and dads optional. Wow. This is why the Democratic Party must to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. It should not be no tier government, no two-party system. We see that one party is the Antichrist and is in opposition of God, because these immoralities are in the book of Leviticus. They're spoken in the book of Leviticus. And this is crazy. This is crazy. And this is why when you hear Kamala Harris, and she's talking about a plan that's not a plan, but she's trying to say that I'm going to do something. You can keep your deeds. You can keep your deeds, because if we choose God and we choose righteousness, whatever we need, we have. Whatever we want, we desire, it will be given to us. But if we sit back and listen to and support a political party willing to allow your children to be violated, okay, to open the doors for child marriages, incest, that's brothers and sisters and fathers and daughters and mothers and sons, and that's multiple wives. And we already have Constitution says that same-sex marriage is already legal. And then by making moms and dads optional, meaning a man can marry his daughter. This is sick. This is sick. I'm doing good, my friend. Enjoy the holidays. Let me see. Brooklyn, East New York. Shout out. Hey, what up, Brooklyn? And see, you guys understand. I got some 5% brothers out there. Appreciate y'all. Can you please say a prayer for me and my whole name and my family? And I appreciate, and I'll pray back for you. Absolutely. And that name is John Brister. In the name of Jesus, bless this brother, John Brister. Bless his family. Cover him. You know what the situation is, and you know what he's going through in his life to even go on public record to ask for prayer. So prayers from sunny South Los Angeles, California, all the way to East Brooklyn, New York. And please bless all in between, because, Lord, we love you and we magnify your most holy and most gracious name. So bless my brother John Brister and his entire family, and cover him, cover his family, Cover me, cover my family, and cover anyone that hears my voice, because we love you and we choose righteousness over unrighteousness, Lord. And we use you in these days and time because only you will make it right. And in Jesus' name, let the church say amen. So listen, we got to get right. And we got to get right. Understand this. 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changes California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, making moms and dads optional. It puts children at risk, and this careless measure harms families and society. So vote no on Proposition 3. Think about it. Who's the leader? One thing Kamala Harris said last when John Baier asked her, when Bret Baier, from Fox News asked her, you continue to say, a path forward, we're turning the page. He asked her, what are you turning the page from? And she said, Donald Trump. He doubled down and said, under the last 3.5, 4 years, it is what it is. That you and the Biden administration have been in the office for the last 4 years. And that was key, right? And then she said, well, the last decade, like, wait a minute, he doubled down. And this is when her staff started saying cut. She started, bucking her eyes, and, I'm gonna go ahead and say she black, because she started acting just like these ignorant black females, unruly that I know, starting to head, do her neck and all of this. And they started arguing on live TV. It was so disrespectful. It was so, like out of pocket. It was so egregious, hurtful for me to see that. And then when I sat back and I reflected on where we are as a people, and then I look at these propositions, Proposition 3 removes, all rules for marriage, and door for incest and polygamy, and, moms and dads marrying sons and daughters. And I look at Proposition 6, which ends slavery in California. And I'm sitting back saying the Democratic Party is the Democratic Party is the grand deceiver. And that was up to Lisa L. The Democratic Party is the party. And I have to be honest with you, the Republicans are the two evils, because they at least believe in God. Okay, this particular thing here, I really don't understand it, but it's starting to look like the Antichrist to me. It's starting to look like, in the first book of the Bible, when you had Adam, you had Eve, and then you had the deceiver. So Adam has to make a choice that he's not going to make that same mistake, because he repented of his sin for following Eve and not following God. So now Adam, the man, is going back to God. Now Eve is stuck because she's in an entanglement with the deceiver. And Eve, just to add a name to it, is Kamala Harris. The deceiver is Barack Obama, and they all connected to the devil. You see how Barack had to go to Kamala Harris's aid to try to connect and communicate with the black community. But it's kind of like the serpent needs her to connect with us, but we're good. We're good. And it is what it is. And got another comment. It is, they come from the synagogue of Satan. Hey, let's keep it 100. And I appreciate that. Hit that notification, because I'm going to need you in some of these comments, when the enemy really steps in and, go at us, and we gotta stay fast. Evidence of their belief in God. Okay. So listen, we got to understand, like it's God versus the devil. So from a moral perspective, like I said, just like Jesus, he didn't come to change the scribes and Pharisees. So I cannot be a hypocrite. I cannot sit back and tell you the Republican or Democrat, even though I'm a registered life Democrat. In the last election, I wrote my name in, but this election, I will be exercising my constitutional right, and I will be writing in my Savior Jesus Christ. Because under that green party, there's a box says write in. If you're going to mail in your ballot, bubble in the and write it in. And if you vote on election day, go all the way to the bottom and write his name in, Jesus Christ. He's not going to win. He's not going to place, but he's going to show up on election day. And we want to show the world that there is a group of people who choose God over both odds. And in this case, one of these parties got to go, and that's the Democratic Party. That's the Democratic Party. And this is crazy because, and then when you take a deep dive into Proposition 3, which is a Democratic measure in California, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to marriage, incest, and polygamy. And it changes the California Constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional, children at risk. This is crazy. And then, the Roe v. Wade, don't even want safety nets or guardrails. Okay. Anyone can understand, rape, incest, or the life of the mother is canceling this out. Okay. But rape, incest, the life of the mother, and there should be some legality when it comes to which trimester. You can't be in your third trimester, already had your baby shower, and then get into an argument with your husband, baby daddy, and then somehow you go murder the baby. And this is how Satan hurt God, by killing his children. And that's a fact, because abortion is demonic. And the best way you could deal with abortion is not to get pregnant. And this is what men teaches their daughters, to not get pregnant. So we really got to understand what we're dealing with. And then when you really take a deep dive, that the Sierra Pacific Synod, okay, is a supporter of this bill. And then if you continue more, let me see here, Dolores Huerta Foundation. So I looked up Dolores Huerta. Dolores Huerta right now is 90 years old, and she's living in New Mexico. Okay, she was the founder of the National Farmers Association, okay, with Cesar Chavez. So you see how they're taking history and they're somehow manipulating. I'm surprised that they don't have Black Lives Matters on this as well, because they did the same thing with that movement. Because, like I said, it was a Chicano civil rights organization, and now all of a sudden they're pushing a bill supported through her foundation, which is probably funded by, people who, don't wish us well, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy. It changes California's constitution, even though same-sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional, and it puts our children at risk. And that's Proposition 3, that's supported by the Sierra Pacific Synagogue, which is the Lutheran church. Okay, Dolores Huerta, which is the most influential labor activist in the 20th century. She's the leader of the Chicano civil rights movement. They got her down, but she's 94 years old, so she's clueless. So they're just using her name, image, and likeness. And let me see here. And the other supporter is Equality California. Think about this. God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. I think this election, we need to make a statement. I think this election, we need to step up and, do what we need to do. Because when I have my conversations with my brothers, and I got a meeting coming up, and I'm going to be speaking with them, because it's a group of people that say, they're not voting. I ain't Republican, I ain't vote for Trump, and I ain't voting for no prosecutor. And I'm sitting back like, okay, we got to vote, and here's why. Because if you want to be free on the 6th of November, you got to go in and vote yes on Proposition 6, because I'm reading this out the book, because Proposition 6 ends slavery in California and upholds human rights and dignity for everyone. Okay. And it aligns with the national effort to amend the 13th Amendment. And if you didn't know, we were not freed based on the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment on the United States Constitution says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. But then when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, the Democratic, Dixiecratic, Confederate Andrew Johnson, pretty much worked with his constituents in the South, and they put the criminalization clause, and then they created the Vagrancy Act of 1866. So the Civil War ended in December of 1865, and then 2 weeks later, in January 15th of 1866, the Vagrancy Act of 1866 was passed, and that pretty much reads that if you are a newly freed slave and you appeared homeless, unemployed, vagrant, or out just wandering looking for displaced family members, based on the Vagrancy Act of 1866, they put a ball and chain on your ankle, and you were forced to do involuntary labor. And this is the same bills and the same legislation that they use today that created mass incarceration with Bill Clinton, 3 strikes and you're out. This is why they pay $114,000 for prisoners in California, and they only pay $14,000 annually to educate, because prison crime pays. Crime pays because our federal prisons trade on Wall Street. I'm going to say this again. Our federal prisons trade on Wall Street, and our major investors in these private are our major television and record labels in terms of Universal, Capitol Records, MCA. And this is why they have these individuals doing this type of music, which will murder us, or will get people murdered. And then the people who did the murdering will put them into prison, which is slavery. And if you want to basically really understand, and you're not a reader, go to Netflix and look up the documentary 13th, 13th. 13th will basically tell you about mass incarceration, how it is still a thing. And this is why, the black man, which I represent, cannot have an association with either party, because we need to lobby both sides to do things right for the people. So this is why we are trying, remove ourselves from the Democratic Party as a block vote and declare ourselves as nonpartisan independents. And that will be actually humanitarians. And we will literally fight for the rights of humans, because if we can end racism in the United States, then there will be one race, and that will be the human race. Because when I read the Constitution says domestic tranquility. How can we live tranquil domestically here in America when we got laws and communities that are put in an ecosystem to commit crimes and to commit heinous and felonious acts against its own people? And then, then we put rules, laws, and legislation on the books to pretty much handle that. So this is why, if you were wondering why the reparations is on hold, because based on the Constitution, in the United States Constitution, the 13th Amendment, and based on California's Constitution, we're documented as slaves. And Gavin Newsom pretty much exposed and is a whistleblower, because Assemblymember Lori Wilson put Proposition 6 on the ballot, and there were actually no opponents submitted. And Gavin Newsom basically said to basically have a conversation about reparations. There's no way you guys could be slaves. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Proposition 6 on the ballot, which ends slavery in California, human rights and dignity for everyone, which aligns with the national effort to reform the 13th Amendment. And this is the good part. An atonement, an apology was already written by Gavin Newsom, and it was pretty much documented. And now that we have the atonement, now we get a chance to vote for freedom in a sense of Proposition 6 to end slavery in the state of California. And then after all that's said and done, then reconciliation comes with, some type of payout. Because if you're married for 60 years and get a divorce, and you were on the short end of the stick, then there is going to be alimony. So it's pretty much just basically, righting the wrongs of the past. And we're dealing with a Democratic Party who wants to add wrongs of today, because I just cannot believe that the Democratic Party is supporting and allowed Proposition 3 to remove Proposition 3. A vote yes removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to charges, incest, and polygamy. It changes California's constitution, even though sex marriage is already legal, by making moms and dads optional, and it puts children at risk. And that's crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy. So please do that. I appreciate you. And I hope that you're saying, please write in Jesus Christ, because we cannot be guilty by association from either of these parties. So yes on Prop 6, no on Prop 3, and they could keep their deeds. What they're going to do for us, because they're not going to do anything for us. Okay, so this whole thing is about righteousness. This whole thing about righteousness. Now we are pulling. Let me see here. Are you pulling Proposition 3 from? It is part of the state bill or in California. Well, Proposition 3 is actually, it's in California, but there's multiple states that have it on the ballot as well. North and South Carolina are two that I'm for sure about, but it's actually already, I think it's been, on the state floor. It pretty much got pushed up to be put on the ballot. Now we, the people, get an opportunity to vote. And without a shadow of a doubt, in their think tanks and their, while they're not promoting it, they're going to just assume that it's going to pass because we're not having these conversations about it. And this is a real thing. So let me see here. Proposition 3, since we got some smart people on: constitutional right, marriage, legislative constitutional amendment. So seeking a constitutional amendment that's on the ballot now to basically end all rules for marriage. It amends the Constitution to recognize fundamental right to marry regardless of sex or race, which is removes language in California's Constitution stating that marriage only between a male and female. So they want to remove the language that says marriage is the right just for man and woman. See, the first time we switched it up, it was saying a man and a woman. So we voted and it passed. Same-sex marriage passed. So now they're basically saying to pretty much take the statement off where it says, let me see, removes language in California stating marriage is only between a man and a woman. To remove the literature saying man and woman. So now, since it says man and woman, traditionally, conservatively, a man marries a woman. Okay. Now, the literature states today that male and female, but you can marry male, female, because that bill passed. Kamala Harris was the attorney general and she performed same-sex marriage in San Francisco. So they want to remove that literature. So if you take man and a female, or men and women, then you're opening the door for dogs, cats, animals. Think about it. This is sick. And I don't want you to be guilty by association. This is why I can't support the Democratic Party or its legislation and its presidential candidate this time around, because this is sick. This is sick. And voting for the Democratic president, you are aiding and abetting and supporting their policies. Okay, because the end of the day, somebody said that the white liberals were the worst thing that could ever happen to Black Americans. And we know that this is a far left liberal thing, because how can you remove the literature between man and woman when we agree to same sex, which is male, or female? So now you want to remove that literature, and Proposition 3 removes all rules for marriage, opening the door to child marriages, incest, and polygamy, which is opening the door for animals and anything else. This is crazy. This is crazy. So Trump 2024, that's a thumbs up. And the only reason I'm giving you a thumbs up, because like I said, I'm not a Trumpster. I'm basically anti-democratic, which is anti-devil, since they're the antichrist. Okay. And this is what I'm going to be doing. So if you're not sure and you're confused, this is what we're doing. We want Jesus Christ's name to pop up on election day and basically sit back and say, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? Jesus Christ's name is on the popped up as an independent candidate in 2024. And we will go down in history as the individual in the group in our days and time to basically change the United States, which will ultimately change the world. Now, let me see here. Robert B. Okay, you're going to fight in World War III. Heard it's like Call of Duty. Listen, if we don't set the record straight and separate ourselves from the Democratic Party, there will be a World War III. Okay, because when you have weak leadership in the United States, you see what's happening. And if you did not know, we're not hearing anything about the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia is destroying the Ukrainians. Zelensky is trying to speak with the North Korean to have to put some type of treaty together to have Kim Jong-un, Rocket Man, utilize some of his troops from North Korea to help him in the war. And see, brand distraction. We're not hearing anything about that. But how much money did we give Ukraine? We allowed this little comedian, which is Zelensky, to come to the Joint House of Congress and get billions of dollars to do what? To lose a war. This is crazy. We've sent billions of dollars to Israel. We've sent billions of dollars to Taiwan. We've sent billions of dollars all around the world, but we got money for war and we can't feed the poor. This is the greatest nation in the world. And if there was a nonpartisan group of an independent, also known as the humanitarians, and this is what we're developing, we can have conversations with both sides. We can have conversations with both sides. It is what it is. Good morning to you. It is what it is. So the world that we living in right now, we have to disconnect ourselves. Okay. Just like, just to keep it simple. Okay. And I read the Bible. I've read the Bible. I've studied theology. And one thing that I've learned through theology on a elitist level is that the Bible is not a book of religion. The Bible is a book of politics that contains religion. So this is why, these things can be associated with the word that's been written thousands of years ago because it's so predictable. And then when you look at the black man, who represents the man in general, because black is nothing but an acronym for Black, Latin, Asian, Caucasian, kinsman. We all kinship. We are related as humans. The man is pulling away from the Democratic Party because the man has made mistakes for a very long time. The man has made mistakes for a very long time. And now that he's deciding to do something different, he got to be honest with himself. He got to walk away. He got to do what he got to do. Because if you look at the Garden of Eden with Eve, Adam made a mistake. And we as men can make that same mistake. And the mistake that Adam made is that he hearkened to Eve instead of hearkening to God. He hearkened to Eve instead of hearkening God. We can't blame her. We can't throw her under the bus. We just understand that we must hearken to God. Okay. And now for Eve, when Eve was chastised for what she did, God asked her, "What have you done?" She pointed to the serpent, the devil, and said, "He deceived me." So do you see the connection and the correlation between Eve and the serpent? But the serpent uses Eve to and affect us. So this is why I'm saying party over. As long as we as long as we do what we need to do, then we can right the wrongs of the past and we can live free. So it is what it is. My time is up. I got things to do. This is why I jumped on. They calling me. So listen, God's people shall not perish through knowledge. So just tap in, hit the notification so we can have these conversations moving forward so we can right the wrongs of the past. And when the Democratic Party says that, we're turning the page and we're moving forward, but she can't answer the question of what she's turning the page from. She's turning the page away from the truth, and the truth is in the word. The truth is in the past. So we need to go back, see where the mistake was made to correct everything. And this is what we're going to do. So thanks for tuning in. Hit that notification because we're up in 2024 because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And with that being said, have an amazing day. It's your man, Bushan Glover. Peace out.